upload the video. 10 Triple H's biggest mistakes since taking over WWE. Hit the subscribe button. Let's get into this.
10 of Triple H's biggest mistakes since taking over WWE. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new videos on WrestleMania XL. Number 10. Glorified PR stunts. And whilst there's no question that the sheer quality of Raw, SmackDown and Premium Live events have drastically improved under Triple H, they aren't without criticism. A lot of fans feel that the shows are glorified PR stunts, and it's easy to see why so many fans feel this way. The debut of Raw on Netflix was WWE basically telling the audience how popular the product is, and they bragged endlessly about the gate number. Whilst promoting the gate number makes sense from a business perspective, it shows that the ticket prices are insanely high right now, and it puts fans in a weird position. Are they just supposed to cheer the fact that they were potentially overcharged to attend a wrestling event? Now, one thing is for sure, WWE is red hot right now, but they don't need to remind the audience every 5 minutes. The reception to the product, along with the ratings, as well as attendance, should speak for itself. This is definitely an element of the WWE presentation that Triple H is just obsessed with, and his infamous line of WWE is on fire right now, and you ain't seen nothing yet, has turned into a comedic meme on social media. Number 9.
Yo, they're right about that. As far as the prices, bro, like I get the PR part of it. You gotta make the business, you make it look big because of the business, pause. But as far as the ticket prices, it's getting crazy. It's getting crazy, but it's not just WWE. It is like even like, which is weird. In the NFL, during the regular season, the tickets were high, but during the playoffs, it kind of dropped off. But it's strange. But for WWE specifically, the ticket prices are high, bro. It is high, bro. Like you got to pick one PLE every 5 years to go to, and that's it, bro. You got to save up. I've never heard about having to save money to go to a WWE show, even for Raw or SmackDown. It's crazy. Some people are waiting for their income tax check to come in and to decide whether they want to go to Money in the Bank. Not even WrestleMania, just Money in the Bank, bro. It's getting crazy, man.
Sponsorship overboard. A wrestling company such as WWE having sponsors isn't a new concept, yet this has been a pivotal focus of WWE's business model since around 2022. WWE have sponsorship deals from Prime to Fortnite, and these will bring in lucrative numbers for the company. But the problem here is that WWE potentially have too
He said,
many.
Tyrion, that you got ripped off. I wouldn't. Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like you go crazy because you saw your favorite wrestler, and now you got to decide if you want to where you want to park your car when you go sleep in it. Them prices are crazy, bro.
Sponsors. The map for Raw is now filled with logos and adverts, and it makes WWE's flagship show just look like one big advertisement. Now, this may not even be a Triple H call. All these calls could likely go above his head. But WWE are definitely leaning towards a more UFC style of branding and marketing, and this is only likely to increase as the months and years go on. WWE even have a deal with Hulk Hogan's new beer company, and to promote this, they even had Hogan appear on the debut episode of Raw on Netflix, and naturally, due to Hogan's rotten reputation, he was booed out of the building. This resulted in mainstream news outlets picking up the story, and it vastly overshadowed the Netflix premiere. It was ultimately a terrible creative call that Triple H and WWE should have had the foresight to see coming. Number 8.
Bro, like here's the thing. When Hulk Hogan did this, I'm still trying to figure out what was WWE thinking? Like what was the return on investment to have Hulk Hogan come out there and get booed out like that? Like what was the point? Was there anybody in the chat, watch wrestling live on Netflix, anyone on social media, have you seen anyone say that after seeing Hulk Hogan get booed out the building, I'm going to get a cup of his beer? Anybody? There's nothing that happened there that made me even want to drink it. Like, I'm not understanding it. So now every time they see the mat and they see that logo for that beer, they're going to think of Hulk Hogan. It's going to leave a nasty taste in people's mouths who do not like Hulk Hogan. It makes no sense to me, bro. I understand business, but that is like strange.
8. The Wyatt 6. The Wyatt 6 debuted on WWE TV in the summer of 2024. WWE hit a home run with their debut. The group had an instant aura surrounding them, and the faction annihilating WWE staff members backstage was completely unique. Unfortunately, this was the standout moment of the group's run so far, as since then, the group has been presented as a special attraction and they barely appear on television. It's evident that Triple H believes that keeping the group as special attractions will give them worth, yet the stories that the group have been involved in haven't exactly been fan favorites. The game has had a tough time striking the balance between the supernatural elements and their real-life stories. The latter of the two has been a definite triumph. However, in recent months, it looks like Triple H has moved away from this. The stable remains over with the audience, so it's not a total bust. However, the game needs to reevaluate the direction of the group and focus on a compelling angle that will at least help get the motivations and characters of the group across to the audience. Number 7.
Yeah, they kind of fumbled that. Would you say nope? So no one's asked about the Hulk Hogan beer. Like, I guarantee you, no one's walked into a bar and said, hey, I just watched Monday Night Raw on Netflix, and I just saw Hogan get booed out the building. Let me get a glass of that Hogan juice. Like, no one said that, bro. Like, I don't understand it. But as far as the Wyatt Six, man, yeah, ever since their debut, one of the greatest debuts of all time in the history of WWE, it just all fell apart. And I think now that we kind of have to reevaluate, because I know some people looked at Bray Wyatt like, oh, he comes out with some stuff that's too creative and it fell off because of him. Like, people actually blamed him for it. I think we have to reevaluate those thoughts and think about the fact that maybe WWE doesn't know what to do with these creative type of, gimmicks when it comes to these characters. Like, and I had this thought at one point in time. I was like, you know what? Maybe the problem with Bray Wyatt and RIP to Bray Wyatt is that his creative mind is beyond what you can put in the scope of professional wrestling. Like, he's so creative. It's almost like trying to play soccer with a bowling ball, right? Can it be done? Possibly, but bro, over time, it's gonna burn out. People are gonna get hurt. And I feel like as far as what Bray Wyatt was trying to do, he would almost have to create his own promotion full of all these crazy characters in order for it to make sense. Something to the kin of like a Lucha Underground kind of sense, where they had some of those storylines that was kind of weird like that. I don't think what he could create would work well within the pro wrestling, world, especially the WWE industry. Like, it would work better in like a movie universe, or like I said, a separate promotion where all those type of rules can make sense. But trying to make those things real, it won't work. And even this is the most grounded creation that Bray Wyatt has had so far. And well, maybe the Wyatt family, of course, and we saw that actually worked, but they booked it improperly, especially Bray Wyatt. But that's a whole different conversation. But as far as after the Wyatt family, this is probably the most grounded, the most grounded faction that he's put together or he's created, from his mind as of late, and they still can't figure it out. So it's weird.
Pointless re-signings. When Triple H took over WWE Creative, one of his first aims was to rehire a lot of his favorite names that had been released under Vince McMahon's tenure. Now, this was the right call, as most of the names didn't receive an opportunity to show their skills on the main roster. And to his credit, the game has booked certain names incredibly well. Names such as Chelsea Green, Nia Jax, even Bronson Reed have all had acclaimed second runs in the company, yet the same couldn't be said for everyone. Triple H brought back names such as Hit Row and Tegan Knox, and they did nothing whatsoever with them.
That's not fair, though. I mean, what could you really do with Hit Row, bro? Like, and that's no disrespect to AJ Francis. That's no disrespect to any of the rest of them. B-Fab or Adonis. Adonis is doing great in NXT. I like his character in NXT. But it's like, when your gimmick is just a rapper, there's only so much you can do with it. And if people aren't really feeling you, because they will come out and cut, like, they will have like a whole concert in the middle of a wrestling show, and you just see people standing there bored that don't even like their music. So, like, what could you really do with them? And I personally feel like the best thing they had going was when Swerve was in NXT. That was the best thing that they had going on for them. Outside of that, I personally did not really care about what they were doing. Now, AJ Francis, at this point, he's doing a pretty good job in Indies. So great for him. He's way better there than he is now. As I said, Adonis is better in NXT than he was on the main roster. And B-Fab, I think that she probably, if she goes into, the go get trained a little bit more, I think she could be a pretty decent lower mid-card, wrestler. But there was nothing you could do with that, man.
Game basically brought them back into the mix with no creative plan in place. And this was the exact criticism that fans used toward McMahon when it came to NXT call-ups. When anyone is signed or re-signed to the company, there should be a plan in place before they appear on television. Without this, they'll lack direction, and the on and off again appearances on TV will quickly make fans lose interest, and ultimately fail to get them over to the level Triple H desires. Number 6. House show style PLEs. Now, it goes without saying that Triple H books his premium live event match cards completely differently to Vince McMahon. McMahon often liked to stack his match cards, and sometimes the pay-per-view events, particularly WrestleMania, could run in excess of 5 hours in length. But Triple H likes to keep his events short and sweet, and he's received major backlash for sticking to a 5-match PLE format and really deviating away from this. Triple H's PLEs are great from an in-ring perspective, but they lack any substance. Some fans have labeled them as glorified house shows, and it's easy to see why fans have come to this conclusion. In Triple H's and WWE's mind, the PLEs sell out every single month without fail. So from a financial perspective, the formula works, yet they could do even better. Adding 1 or 2 more matches onto the show and incorporating an element of unpredictability and excitement could take the events to the next level and truly be the focal point of WWE's creative output. Number 5.
I feel like this. I feel like this. If you're older and you get sleepy earlier, and if you got kids, the 5-match thing probably could work for you. But given the fact that they're charging $3 million for nosebleed seats for a 5-match show, it is crazy, bro. You cannot do this. You can't pay less and get way too many matches during the Vince era, and then in this era, you pay an arm and a leg to get 5 matches, bro. That's like, bro, a card normally, a good card would be $15K, right? Or maybe $9,000. But it's like WWE's like, now, you know what? I'll sell the card to you for $9,000 as it was before, but you'll just get the tires. Like, bro, who's paying for that, bro? Who's paying for that? So when you only have 5 matches, you have a smaller margin to mess up. Because if 2 out of those 5 shows, or 5 matches, are not great, the fans are going to feel ripped off. At least if you got 5, 6, 7, or maybe 7 or 8, 9 matches, you got matches to make up for that. It feels like an experience. I agree with that, bro. You gotta extend it out to at least 1 or 2 more matches. But again, for people who get older, who get sleepy earlier, 5-match card probably will help out, bro. DJ McCoy, he said, what?
How much is too much? And whilst Triple H has no issues with sticking to his established PLE match card formula, he definitely has no problem with taking on the burden of additional content outside of PLEs. Over the past few months, Raw has returned to 3 hours with there being no time limit on the show due to Netflix. SmackDown is now a 3-hour presentation. WWE have added regular Saturday Night Main Event broadcasts to the lineup, and there are post-shows left, right, and center. Again, this could all be a directive that is from a higher up in WWE, yet this could be seen as way too much. This assertion is based on the fact that nobody knew WWE had a Saturday Night's Main Event show planned for January, just 1 week before the 2025 Rumble.
That makes no sense.
WrestleMania season is already a stacked time of year, and WWE needs to let the product breathe. Fans can only consume so much, and maybe putting a little extra content into the PLEs instead of random sporadic shows could be a great step forward in 2025. Number 4, push.
I agree with that. I mean, the fact that they had a Saturday Night Main Event a week before Royal Rumble, that lets people know if you're going to Saturday Night Main Event, you're getting the leftovers, right? That's pretty much, honestly, that's pretty much the pre-show to Royal Rumble. It just didn't make it on the actual show itself. I think that's just what that is. But as far as like extending the shows out to 3 hours, I get the benefit of what it does for the wrestlers. But if there was any show so far during the 3 hour, them going 3 hours, that showed you that it should not happen, that was SmackDown this Friday. The way that they utilized that time was awful. It was awful. It wasn't one of the worst SmackDowns I've ever seen, but it just felt so random. Like, you would just see Nick Aldis come out like, oh, all 6 of you guys in the ring randomly. Oh, fight. Like, that's just how every story seemed to be. And there was really no story progression on Friday Night SmackDown this weekend. The only thing that we had happen that there were some obvious, seeds being planted was obviously Roman Reigns saying, I'm going to enter the Royal Rumble, which we all knew that was going to happen. There's been reports coming out saying that Roman Reigns is going to do this year at the Royal Rumble, something he has not done in a long time. We all knew that he was going to enter the Royal Rumble. Great. That's cool. That's fine. That's exciting. And the LA Knight thing where he did have the back and forth with Jacob Fatu, that kind of showed us something was going to happen. But outside of that, it showed that it shouldn't be 3 hours. You got to find a better way. I said this before, especially even during the era where WWE wasn't the greatest. The best episodes of Raw, when it was 3 hours, was when they had an interesting storyline that went throughout the show from the beginning to the end. That was always the best episode. You can't just throw random matches on SmackDown like they just did. Even though I love the tag team division, you cannot just throw random matches on there and be like, oh, this is going to fill up the 3 hours. People are going to like it. No, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. You do those on house shows. You do that on the speed matches. You don't do that on SmackDown and Raw.
Pushing the right names. The WWE have one of the most popular and beloved rosters they've ever had, but that doesn't mean that everyone is over with the crowd. Certain names receive virtually zero reaction every week, yet Triple H continues to book them on weekly television. Take for instance the Pure Fusion Collective. The lack of reaction has resulted in the faction conveniently being known as the No Pop Collective on social media. WWE may have been able to get away with pushing names that aren't over for a few years ago, yet when names are receiving Austin-level pops on a weekly basis, these names stand out for all the wrong reasons. Triple H also received a lot of criticism in regards to the Netflix Raw debut, leaving out key popular players on the Raw roster, including World Heavyweight Champion Gunther not even having a match, even though they're receiving major pops on a weekly basis. But Triple H had something to say about this during an episode on the press box, saying, "I've had the same conversation with 100 people about this first episode of Netflix. I said, guys, it's one show. We're gonna try to, touch on a lot of people. There's only so much real estate within the show. You're not gonna be on that show. Maybe you'll be on the second one. Maybe you'll be on the third one. Like you're gonna be on these shows. We can't put all 200 talent or whatever we have on one show. It's just not gonna work, but it's how they should feel. It's how I would feel if I was talent." Now some are not buying this, as the many legends who appeared like The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan, they took up precious time from a match that could have involved a World Heavyweight Champion Gunther. Number 3.
Yeah, and that was weird because you didn't have your World Heavyweight Champion on the first episode of Netflix. You had a video package for this guy, and then your tag team champions for Raw was sitting in the audience without their championships. Like, why not have your champions hold their titles while sitting in the audience when the camera is going to be on them? So people who haven't watched wrestling in a long time can want to know, hey, these people are champions. Let me figure out who they are. Let me figure out what they're going to do next. But the whole thing with the Pure Fusion Collective is kind of frustrating a little bit, because if you watch NXT during the Black and Gold era and you think about how Shayna Baszler was back then, and you think about how she is now, you would not believe that's the same exact person. There is no way. They changed their theme song. The theme song she had in NXT was fire. What she got now, even as a singles competitor, I don't know what that is. She's been losing left and right. She's been losing on the main roster. She's been losing in NXT. She's been losing in GCW. She's been losing everywhere, bro. So I don't know what exactly she did to be booked like this, but I don't understand, bro. She could be a formidable mid-carder. They got a mid-card championship now. She will be a great heel for that title right now until they want to propel her up to the main championship at one point in time. It makes no sense. Yeah, it literally makes no sense to not have Gunther on the Raw Netflix show. It's crazy. Wait, I got a spammer. Who is that? JD? All right. Timeout. I never did that before. This is my first time putting somebody on timeout. I got to get a sound effect for that, but let's move on.
Flop Gable. In 2024, it was confirmed that Chad Gable had re-signed with WWE. This was delightful news, as Gable had been delivering incredible work alongside Otis, and his matches with Gunther resulted in a number of classic bouts. Fans hope that Gable will be able to finish his story and finally defeat Gunther to become Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania 40. However, Triple H decided to go in the direction of Sami Zayn being the one to dethrone Gunther. Triple H will then embark on a heel turn for Gable, and whilst the character work for Gable has been great, he's mainly been used to put over other talent, which has become increasingly frustrating. Whilst this can be a good spot to be in, was this really what Gable expected when he re-signed with the company? But Triple H has also failed to deliver the hype Gable vs Otis feud, and he's proceeded to tease it for months on end, only to decide to deliver the match in late December after both men had already moved on. Hopefully Gable soon finds himself rewarded for his work, and Gable is certainly a name that has the capabilities to be propelled into a main event role if he's given the opportunity. Number 2.
I don't know what it is with WWE, but whenever somebody re-signs a contract, I feel like that they end up like whatever push they have for them before getting that contract, it just dips down. You see that with Chad Gable. You saw that with Drew McIntyre. They gifted the man a whole sword, bro. They gave him the Braveheart sword or Final Fantasy, whatever sword they gave him at a restaurant. And then after that, he loses the cash in. So I'm like, WWE, I see what they doing. They psychologically messing with people. But Drew McIntyre, if he wasn't as talented as he is, I'm scared of where he would be at right now.
Tag team titles. One of the main things that fans wanted to see when Triple H took over creative was a focus placed on tag team wrestling, specifically the WWE tag titles. When Vince McMahon had created power in WWE, he had a love-hate relationship with tag team wrestling.
He still does.
McMahon would put focus on the division for a few months, then lose interest completely. This has
Still
been a
does.
similar approach that's been taken by the game, as since WrestleMania 40, the tag titles on both brands hadn't been featured on a single premium live event. This is a shocking...
Guys, who've been saying that for the past year? I don't like taking credit for stuff. I've been saying that for the past year, guys. We haven't seen those tag team titles on a PLE since WrestleMania 40, bro. That's crazy. I got another spammer. Oh, DK Browser. Time out, brother. Thank you, Jet. Yeah, I've been saying that for a while, and we still haven't. They can't even make it to a diet PLE in Saturday Night Main Event. Why? I'm not understanding this.
Statistic, and it highlights what Triple H truly thinks are the tag team titles. The presentation of the tag titles over on SmackDown hasn't been appalling, as DIY and the Motor City Machine Guns have been standouts. However, the same couldn't be said for Raw. The tag titles that are currently on Raw are classed as the most worthless titles in the company, and it was heavily criticized that the Judgment Day barely defended the titles during their reign of terror. In fact, out of all the days that they were champion, they only made 2 defenses. And tag team wrestling can be a great addition to any card, and putting resources and effort into making their titles mean something would certainly be a welcome step forward for the game. And number 1, call it a day. A long-term storytelling is sometimes vital in major stories getting over in pro wrestling. For Triple H, he views long-term storytelling as the number 1 storytelling device available to him. The game loves to tell a story over a period of months or years, and this was a far cry from the approach that McMahon would take, as he would often try to wrap things up as quickly as possible, even at times not even ending them at all. While certain long-term storylines under the Triple H era, notably the Bloodline saga and Cody Rhodes' story, have been expertly crafted, some long-term stories have really fallen flat. The Liv Morgan vs Rhea Ripley rivalry dragged on for months with lazy storytelling and lousy matches, and this resulted in the fans urging for Triple H to wrap up the feud and just move on. In fact, the feud was initially set to culminate a
Who else been saying that? They dragged this. Liv Morgan, although she won a lot of stuff, she won the Crown Jewel match, and she's had the title run and stuff like that. It could have been handled so much better, and she could have had that much more of an impact with that championship. Now, I'm not saying that she could have been one of the greatest champions of all time, but I think they could have did something better with her. There's a lot more they could have done with this, but they decided to keep it with the Rhea and Liv thing and just dragged it out for so long. Rhea, when she broke her face or whatever, she could have been gone for months and returned at the Royal Rumble while Liv built up her reputation as a singles competitor defending that title. But they just couldn't let her have it. I don't know why. It makes no sense.
WrestleMania 41, which would have meant that the game decided to keep the feud running for an entire year. Triple H without question has a habit of not knowing when to change things up, and this could be detrimental in the future, as it's vital that Triple H acknowledges how fans are feeling and adapt accordingly. But there you have it, folks. 10 of Triple H's biggest mistakes.
That was all true, man. It's just the long-term story booking thing, it's crazy how different him and Vince is with that. Like, Vince would just cut stuff off before it even gets anywhere, which is kind of messed up because you'll put together these random tag teams, bro, and mugs will go out there and buy the t-shirts for that tag team, like the Jericho or something like that. They'll buy the t-shirts, and then 2 weeks later, the tag team wouldn't exist no more. They can't even wear it to a show or nothing like that. And that was crazy. But Triple H on the other end, just like we talked about before with the Grayson Waller situation and Austin Theory, it's just they just stretch it out for no reason, bro. They just stretch it out. Everything doesn't need to be a long-term story booking, bro. I understand I call Triple H a slow cooker booker, but you don't have to slow cook everything. Some stuff gets burnt, bro. And even on top of that, to add on that, bro, I know I sound like I'm ranting, but I'm just passionate about this stuff. Even on top of that, there are some feuds that don't need to be that deep. Sometimes it could just be a feud like, hey, I want to prove to you that I'm a better wrestler than you. Oh, you have a title? I want title. It can be as simple as that. Everything doesn't have to boil down to a blood feud or a hate feud for it to be important. And I think when Triple H builds these feuds based upon people hating each other, that's when he stretches it out way too long because he wants to build up the momentum on the feud and stretch it out over a time that it doesn't need to. And even like for CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, if they feud had one more match, it would have been too much, bro. I wouldn't have cared anymore. But anyway, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that Triple H is a terrible booker, but for the most part, he has done a fantastic job. I got to give him his flowers. I know that sounds very crazy after I just said what I just said, but he's done a pretty decent job. And there's some things that, Vinnie Mac has done better than Triple H, believe it or not. But, hopefully they'll find the sweet spot in the middle. Theory and Waller should have been broken up months ago. Yeah, I agree. I think they're gonna get broken up during when the portal thing happens. Like I don't think they're actually gonna break them up. I think it's gonna take that portal. But then if after the portal thing happens, or like when they start actually doing stuff